Perfect. Hi, everyone. Okay, so with this, before we dive into some of the questions that we've prepared for you, I'm going to ask that each of our panelists introduce themselves. If you could quickly give an overview of what your role is, the organization's mission, and then your relationship to Google, whether you're a customer, partner, or a fellow Googler yourself, we'll do that. So Olivia, why don't I start with you?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Olivia Bourée. I work at Vast Data, and I focus on our cloud partnership with Google Cloud. My role is really about turning that partnership into real customer outcomes. So working with Google's field teams and customers to identify where we fit and can bring real opportunities to production. So at a high level, our goal is to make it easier for customers to use cloud, especially for AI and high performance workloads, without forcing them to move or restructure their data. And we're very complementary with Google. We love the partnership we have together. Google provide obviously the compute and amazing AI capabilities, and we make sure that the data is accessible and performant so customers can take advantage of that. Thanks for having me.
Perfect, thanks. Duane, why don't I kick it over to you?
Hi there, I'm Duane McKinney. I'm an architect at Charles Schwab. Charles Schwab offers a wide variety of financial services, and our mission is to kind of empower investors with the best tools and service in the industry. I work in market data. Market data is responsible for delivering the data from the exchanges to internally in Schwab and also to end users of Schwab.
Thanks. Stratos?
Hi, everyone. Stratos Efstathiadis. I'm a Senior Director for Research Technology Services at NYU, New York University. NYU is one of the largest private universities in the States with over 60,000 students. We are a global university. We have degree-granting campuses, of course, in New York City, where I am located right now. Washington Square is our primary campus. And we also have degree-granting campuses in Abu Dhabi, in the United Arab Emirates, and also in Shanghai, in China. We are a research university, and my team, Research Technology Services, supports world-class research across many scientific domains, from engineering to genomics to social sciences and global health. We are a customer to Google. We've been a customer to Google for many years. Our emails, our calendars, Drive are all part of, we're all using Google Enterprise for Education. Gemini is our go-to platform. Everyone at NYU has access to Gemini. And for research, we use, of course, Gemini, Vertex AI, Notebook LM, and many other Google offerings in this area.
Perfect. Thanks, Stratos. And last but not least, Will?
Hi, everyone. I'm Will Grannis, and I have the privilege of being the CTO here at Google Cloud. I've been the CTO for about 5-6 years now, and at Google for 11 years. And my team and I, what we endeavor to do, number one, is make sure that this advanced technology that we're spinning out of Willy Wonka's chocolate factory here is usable and available to all of you. And second is to catalyze the next things. So the roadmap that you see today was all built years ago from our engineering and product teams. And my job is to make sure that there are some things that you really, really want show up in that roadmap in the next few years. We do that through deep engineering proofs with our internal organizations in Google Cloud, DeepMind, and the rest of Google Research, as well as collaboratively innovating with our customers. And special thanks to Stratos, because my oldest daughter, Hannah, just graduated from NYU, and she had a wonderful technology experience. So Stratos, I owe you one.
Thanks. Great. Good to know.
I was going to say, we're making connections we didn't even know we were going to make today, so that's great. Well, Will, why don't I start with you, just as we dive into this. As the CTO of Google Cloud, I mean, Google Cloud Next must just be a major highlight of the year for you to see everything come to life that you've been working on. As well as for our customers and partners. Can you share some of the things that are top of mind of highlights from this year's event that you want to share with the audience? And then what specific impacts and what specifically kind of are the projects that you guys are working on and seeing come to life that you're most excited about?
Great. Well, thanks, Megan. And it really is an honor to be with all of you here in the advanced computing community. This is my first time at one of your sessions. And I'm here because we had a lot going on at Next this year as it relates to advanced computing and technical computing. And as you can tell from the formidable panel we've also assembled, there's a lot going on generally at Google and with our partners and our customers in technical compute. So I'll try to compact some of that down in a short version, and I'll speak kind of fast. So if you turn it to 1.5 speed later watching this on YouTube, it'll feel like 4, so it'll make you even more efficient. But kind of, I'll start from the overall perspective, and that is that, for someone who's been around AI like I have in data for a long time, before AI was even cool and it was just linear algebra, this year really felt like a shift from agentic AI being in prototypes across most of our customers to actually being in production, and now getting into the more sophisticated bits of agentic workflows. So, we kind of had this phrase last week that, it was agentic systems of intelligence last year, and this year it's agentic systems of action. And I think that really, I think that's a good way to encapsulate it, because now it's, we're bringing context, we're bringing platform elements, model optionality, all of these, skills are now available, agent registries, long-term memory, all the components that go into making agents actually work in production is what we really focused on highlighting this year at Next. So I also recommend, if any of you are interested, we have all of our sessions up online, and you can go do quick YouTube searches on your favorite topic, and you can grab a whole bunch more than we'll be able to cover here today. The second big theme, in addition to this kind of new agentic action, is full stack AI. And a lot of our customers and analysts and people, I think they hear full stack AI and they think about it like a stack of products. As a technologist for far too long, the way I like to think about it is we're in an exponential technology disruption. And whenever you're in one of these periods, you build capability really quickly, and then you also are starting to accumulate some debt and things you're going to have to wring out later. And so when I think about full stack AI at Google and why we're a little different here is that because we have our own chips, we have our own networking, we have our own models, we have our own systems of context, we're kind of building in the optimizations that tend to come later in those waves. We're building them in as we go. So one of the things I heard from, and I must have had 85 customer meetings in 3.5 days. So I could barely blink. But across all of those customer meetings, it was very consistent that there's a lot of advantage that comes from having built global scale technical fabrics, owning each piece of it, and being able to build in the optimizations as we launch new versions of the product. All right, so finally, last little bit from me, Megan, because I really want to give the community here a little bit of a deep dive in technical compute. I want to just roll through 4 areas that I think are important to this community and pass back over to you. First, the compute engine, like the engine room of Google Cloud. So for the first time this year, we announced TPU generations that move kind of in 2 equal branches, training and inference. The TPU 8T, this is the big trainer. And we introduced a board flight architecture, and we're going to double the ICI bandwidth to roughly over 19 terabytes per second. Why you care about this? Because you can scale up to about 9,600 chips in a single pod, 2 petabytes of shared memory, and you're getting your network diameter is going to shrink by about 4x, which is pretty significant. On the flip side, inference, we're trying to kill latency and the memory wall. Not easy to do. But agentic workflows and a lot of these shapes are real-time reasoning and long context decoding. So we tripled the onboard SRAM, and then we also introduced this collectives acceleration engine. So like this is going to offload those all gather operations that were killing you before. We're offloading those, and we believe that we can get on-chip latency down by about a measure of 5x. And the Virgo networking, you can daisy chain about over 130,000 TPUs together now. So for those of you with big compute, bring it on. We got you. All right, HP storage, because you can't have compute without storage. I think this is a surprise that a lot of people run into. They focus on the chips and they don't focus on the storage tier. We did announce a managed Lustre at 10 terabytes per second and rapid storage. So this gives you about 10x faster throughput than last year on Lustre, and also cloud storage rapid, so you have framework optimization for Jackson PyTorch. We also are doing TPU direct and RDMA now with managed Lustre, so you can bypass the CPU host and go right into the accelerators, which is pretty cool. And if you're a researcher out there, rapid means your checkpoint writes are over 3 times faster, and restores are about 5 times faster. So we don't want you having idle compute out there. All right, 2 more things to go. The orchestration bridge, as we like to call it, which is kind of the platform tier. I really wanted to mention that GKE, Google Kubernetes Engine, can be now a unified operating system for both AI and traditional HPC. Our GKE hypercluster can give you millions of accelerators managed and over 250,000 nodes globally. And yes, that's right, new Slurm operator add-on. So now you can run Slurm directly inside of GKE. All of us technical compute people rejoice. And I think this is really going to give us more of a bridge between science in the cloud and kind of these modern containerized workloads. It's not fully optimized yet, but maybe you don't need to have as many separate infrastructure stacks for simulation and AI engineers. And then the last bit, people like to focus on models a lot. And I think we talk a lot about scientific models. So this is the alpha series and weather. But I wanted to give you something a little bit different today. And that was because as a data person, AI person myself, we're taking what used to be kind of these advanced data science capabilities, we're pushing them right into a data warehouse, which I think is going to help you all a lot. So Times FM and Tabular FM are now available directly in BigQuery. And we also gave you data engineering and science agents along with that. So that means that Times FM, Tabular FM, you're going to get state-of-the-art time series forecasting and tabular classification natively in BigQuery's zero-shot models. So predictive insights without a lot of that extensive custom model training. And then for the rest of the work, data science agents are going to give you natural language execution for Python and Spark. And basically taking a bunch of the busy work of data science and automating it. So I know that was a lot, but we launched thousands of things over the last year, and I only had 6 minutes to give you all of that. So lots of stuff going on.
We did give you a tall order to try to really capture everything over last week into a 6-minute time frame. So we appreciate it, Will. Thank you.
Yeah,
there was a lot of goodness, and 85 meetings over 3.5 days is, I think, a marathon. So I give you major kudos for that as well. Well, let's pivot over to our customer perspective a little bit. I mean, so Duane, Stratos, I'm going to ask you both the same question just to see kind of what you guys got. So Duane, I'll start with you. But I mean, representing Google Cloud as a Google Cloud customer, what excited you the most about attending Google Cloud Next? Was it the broad spectrum of announcements, such as some of the ones that Will just talked through, or were there any specific news or sessions that stood out to you?
Yeah, I attended a lot of breakout sessions, which I really enjoyed. This was it felt like the first conference in a while where I wasn't jumping from meeting to meeting. I kind of like didn't tell anybody I was going. And so I did run into some people, but mostly I got to just say, let me set my agenda, take in the conference. I did get to meet with a couple vendors that I was looking forward to. So it really was like kind of like the whole experience. A lot of times for me, the conference was like, okay, everybody I've been trying to meet with for 6 months is in the same place. And so I'm just going to, hop from room to room meeting with them. But I actually felt like I got to be a participant in the conference, which was very nice.
What was your favorite session, Duane?
Oh, I mean, I guess I love Decoded. I watched one on TDD development with agents. I think it was the first day conference, and I really, I don't know. There were so many that I wanted to put into the feedback. This was like, this one was the best. I really saw like a tremendous amount of fantastic talks, great questions, just well prepared. Another one I really enjoyed was the discussion with a bunch of the open source, we had Hugging Face, LangChain, and ChainGuard in there. So it was kind of just, and that one might have stood out just because it wasn't totally different than a lot of presentations, but it was kind of like a different angle on a lot of the stuff to see how what Google's doing to support having the open models running on the cloud. But really there was, I was not disappointed with a single session. I was really kind of blown away, and it exceeded my expectations.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Duane. Stratos, what about you? What stood out about Google Cloud Next? What were you most excited about from a news or session standpoint?
Lots of things, lots of exciting announcements. I guess if I had to pick one, was the announcement about the 8th generation of TPUs and the separation between the AT for training and the TPU AI for inference. I went into a number of breakout sessions that talked about, the infrastructure, some very exciting developments there in the design of the TPU. I mean, TPUs have been around for a number of years. 2015, I want to say, was the first one, if I remember well. And things have evolved a lot. And me being in supercomputer design in the past, I really appreciate all the developments that I heard about, such as, the 3D torus network that enable each node in the network being a TPU to have 6 nearest neighbor nodes is an exciting development. The inter-chip interconnect, the ICI, and doubling the bandwidth is also an exciting development. I mean, everything now is on an ASIC, right? An application-specific integrated circuit, and you have the CPU cores, the memory, the network, all on a piece of die, which is amazing, which is great, and that leads to performance, but also one of the critical factors there is the amount of memory that the processors have access to, as well as the memory bandwidth, how fast they can access the memory. And also the RDMA, the remote direct memory access, has been evolving, which is fantastic. Overall, this approach between the co-design of the hardware and the software, which is an approach we've seen in the design of supercomputers in the past and seeing it now being implemented in TPUs, I think it was a very, very exciting development. Also exciting developments on the Kubernetes end. I think many of us run on-prem Kubernetes clusters for a number of reasons, primarily cost, because every time we get charged by tokens when we use publicly available LLMs, right? So if we are serving models on a Kubernetes cluster on-prem, we save on cost. But there are some exciting developments on that front, especially on the Google Kubernetes engine, on the GKE, on Google Cloud, basically addressing the bottlenecks of serving large language models. Every time new pods need to be deployed to scale the serving engine, this causes delays, and I was happy to hear about dynamic resource allocation on GKE, which was pretty exciting. And as Will mentioned, data storage, managed Lustre. We've been running Lustre in previous HPC clusters on-prem. With the current cluster, we don't use a true parallel file system. We use VAST. So we have all our HPC storage on VAST. So happy to see the on-prem VAST with the VAST on cloud. We already have plans to work closely with VAST and try to move data seamlessly between on-prem and GCP, such as when we burst HPC workflows on GCP or for AI work, hopefully using TPUs, right? So that's an exciting development. And as I said, we don't have a true parallel file system, but if there are workflows that we need to run on-prem, that we run on-prem but require parallel file system, we can offload those now on GCP. But overall, lots of exciting announcement, and I have to say, I think the all the breakout sessions that I went to were all excellent, great. So happy I was able to.
No, I mean, like we've said, there's a lot of news that came out of last week, and it's always exciting to see how our customers have heard and responding to it as well. So, I mean, Olivia, let's take it to you from a partner perspective. I mean, VAST is a fast-growing, high-performance storage company that has an expanding list of HPC and AI customers. What was your experience like as a Google partner at Next, and how do the recent Google announcements align with your technology solutions for Google Cloud customers?
Yeah, thank you. And I feel like Stratos just teed me up great. Thank you, Stratos. Gosh, that was awesome. Being at Next as a partner was energizing. And it was my first year there as a partner. I've actually been before as a Googler. So it was a great experience to be there as a partner. Highly recommend it. it, of course, really reinforced how quickly things are moving, especially around, AI and high performance infrastructure. And what stood out to me the most was how intentional Google is being about building a full stack platform. So from compute to accelerators like TPUs to AI models to data and to storage, like Will pointed out earlier. So that for me to see that holistically was really amazing. And the announcements, Google's announcements to me aligned directly with what we're seeing customers talk about and want to talk about and struggle with today. Stratos even brought it up so beautifully, managing massive data sets for AI, eliminating data silos, really making it all usable across environments. And shameless plug, that's where partners like Vast can come in, is providing a unified data layer that allows customers to access and move data seamlessly between on-prem and Google Cloud through a global namespace. So when Google talks about like scaling AI or enabling more efficient model training, things that were brought up earlier in the call, the underlying challenge is always the data, right? Like how fast can we access it? How consistently it's managed? How easily or not easily we can move it? So, we certainly complement that by making data instantly available where the compute is, whether that's on-prem or Google Cloud TPUs. So for me as a partner, one of the biggest alignments is around hybrid and flexibility and helping our customers be super flexible. So a lot of our customers aren't all in on cloud or all in on-prem, they want both. And so Google's continued investment in hybrid capabilities, combined with partners like Vast's availability to unify data across all environments, makes partnerships really powerful. So for me, overall, it was stellar. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, Olivia, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head of making sure you have flexibility to choose the right solution that makes sense for you and your workflows. And sometimes a one-size-fit-all approach doesn't make sense for everyone. And so having that choice to be able to choose what works best is really empowering. Will, I'm going to pivot back to you for a second and somewhat put you on the spot. But you mentioned agents in action as a big theme from this year's show. And there was a lot of buzz at Next around Gemini-based agents to accelerate R&D as well as scientific discovery. For the folks within this advanced computing community who are researchers, developers, and scientists, how do you see these agents in action being used to change day-to-day workflows over the next 12 to 18 months?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's kind of three journeys that we see. Journey number one is, let's activate an entire workforce and get them building, get them asking questions, get them utilizing AI. And so our announcements around Gemini Enterprise, kind of the app version, kind of top of the stack, that gives everybody from HR to finance to, the whatever department you want, access to agent building capabilities right away, workflow, construction that can be a canvas. It doesn't even have to be, it really, for me, one of the things I noticed in early versions of that and then working with customers is that, in the past, we had the sensibility of like building, and then you had this like product requirements document, and it was this massive thing, and it had like a bazillion pages in it. And now it's like the most important part is the objective at the top. And so it's really unlocking the creativity of an entire workforce through kind of this very easy to use agentic surface. And this is very much what people use in their, a lot of people use in their day-to-day lives. It's kind of shadowing the consumer version of the Gemini app. And so it gives you a consistent experience from at home, utilizing agents to automate, as much as you want on your personal life. And then you get the same experience at work. That's a really big deal. This is like the smartphone. I liken this to like the smartphone consumerization of IT when the smartphone made its way into the enterprise. And so the more consistent it can be, the more leverage you're going to get because people don't have to relearn things. So that's number one. Number two is the agentic platform, the Gemini Enterprise Agent Platform. This is a place where you can construct long running. We just announced, like, for example, on memory, you can construct agents that can run for 7 days now. So if you're running a long running research task, for example, in the past, you're really limited by, how long you could maintain state I can maintain understanding of, these very complex workflows. You may be doing research loops, multiple research loops within one workflow. So little capabilities inside the platform, and this is the persona more of like the builders, the research scientists, the folks that are doing deep research. And then the third persona is is the coding and the, software engineers, or kind of these hybrid, data scientists plus software engineers. We found that, generally speaking, agent creation kind of falls in these three buckets. In that third one, a lot of work has gone into making, things like anti-gravity and our, coding surfaces really seamless to be able to, think of what you want to get done, deploy it very quickly to, platforms, get first order instantiations, and then even create like research loops. I've seen people creating kind of front ends over deep research and co-scientist, for example, and leveraging the power of multiple kind of state-of-the-art scientific models. One for getting up to speed on a topic, and two for, kind of finding a frontier that maybe isn't out there yet. So, kind of one is multiple persona creation, and then two, these kind of long-running, looping agentic workflows now, especially for research and technical community. That was a big part of the conversation, what customers were talking about, excited about, and what was on display.
Yeah, for those who missed it and couldn't attend, there is a digital session on using co-scientists and Alpha Evolve to accelerate research workflows. So highly encourage everyone to go check that out. It was a really great session by some of our DeepMind team, as well as customers actually talking about their experience. Maybe continuing on kind of the agentic workflow, Stratos, I'll ask you a question. As a research lead, you manage diverse scientific domains with varying infrastructure needs. How do you envision utilizing kind of these scientific agents, and even maybe just agentic workflows in general, to optimize your workflow without limiting the exploratory nature that the researcher teams are doing?
Certainly, automation and taking actions on certain patterns we identify in research data are two of the use cases that I've seen NYU researchers heavily utilize agents. I have to say a lot of them are still in the exploratory phase of how they can take full advantage of agents. And also, generally, our work on AI is divided into AI work, which means improving the fundamentals of AI, such as natural language processing, including agents, versus applying AI into this various scientific domains. And I see agents have an impact on actually both of them, both in the improving the AI fundamentals, as well as using them in scientific research, such as climate modeling or biomedical research.
Okay. I mean, Duane, maybe a similar question for you. Or from the industry perspective, how do you see these agents in action changing your day-to-day work as a software architect at Schwab?
Yeah, we're really looking to make this, I think like a lot of companies, it's like a force multiplier, and also just kind of eliminate a lot of the toil work that I think everybody ends up dealing with, and say like, okay, if you have these repeatable tasks, why are you doing, sometimes it's repeatable but not quite scriptable, and so we can say like, okay, let's get like maybe human reviewer, human approver in there, and then like let the rest just go. And I know I'll be happier once we get there, because a lot of times I'm just like, I don't want to spend 2 hours on this, so why do it?
Yeah, the day-to-day toil and kind of just the productivity enhancements are really something that I've seen in my own day-to-day workflows, which has been really helpful. But I think we're only just, scratching the surface, and there's a lot underneath that we are still going to see and learn about. Well, maybe so looking ahead, we just came out of next 2026, and I really don't want to start thinking about 2027 yet. However, we know how quickly this industry changed and just what a dynamic market we're in. And as leaders in this space, what do you think is our next big hurdle? And what do you think we'll be talking about at next 2027? And this is a question for each of our panelists. So maybe Olivia, I'll start with you.
Let's not start with me. I want to hear what my peers had to say.
Perfect. Okay, I'll start with Will.
Hot potato, Olivia. Well done. Well, so for next year, probably a couple things. One is I think more long-running, multi-step, multi-agent workflows, more examples of those. Today, most of the examples are kind of singular agent tasks executing, like Duane said, well-known, well-trodden paths. But like just today, in parallel to this, two customers of ours are building agents to interact with each other to optimize supply chain. So one is the customer, one is the logistics provider, and they're using A2A at the core, and they're writing agents to interact with each other and to get work done in a new way, like embedding game theory in them so they can like negotiate against each other. It's very interesting. And so I expect to see more of those next year, more of these multi-agent, even multi-organizational agentic workflows as the policies become more well-known, as the security models become, and identity and trust models become more well-known. I think we'll be talking more about agentic trust and identity next year, because I think the stakes are going to go up as more folks like at Schwab and regulated industries employ agentic workflows. It's really going to necessitate more clarity and I think more standards across. This is something my customers and I were talking a lot about at Next. Is right now it seems like there's some emergent thought, but not necessarily like a super solid foundation on the trust, identity, and security models for multi-agent, multi-organizational workflows. I also, maybe bold prediction, maybe we'll see what happens. The best way to be wrong as a technologist is to try to predict the future. But that being said, I'll impale myself and say that I think that we're going to see quantum computing start to accelerate in the next few years. Algorithms are already, at high, kind of high interest, high understanding, and we even talked about at Google pulling our timelines back for some of the encryption and pathways to 2029. I think quantum is going to become more of the conversation, if not next year, definitely over the next few years. So keep an eye out on that.
Stratos, I'll kick it over to you. Same question. Next big hurdle, or what are we going to be talking about in a year?
I agree about the quantum computing / quantum networks. I was actually expecting to see some of that in this year's Google Cloud Next, but I didn't see much. And I see both many peer academic institutions as well as us, and where you have recently created the Quantum Institute here at NYU. I agree with Will, and this is something that I would expect to see some sessions over the next year's Google Cloud Next about quantum computing and quantum networks. In another area, I would expect to see some more of in the robotics area domain. There was some of it this year. I've seen, I didn't join any of the sessions, but I think there were a couple of demos in the expo floor. But I expect to see more of that in next year's Google Cloud Next.
Perfect. Duane, your turn.
This is so hard because I was so floored when they said, it was 1.67 exaflops, in the cluster. And it's like that was not that long ago, the compute power of our planet. And it's like, it's just accelerating, like if I look back 3 years, like it's hard to say. Like for me, what was big is like, some of the controls and observability. I think right now, maybe we're saying like, okay, we know we need observability, and we're starting to say like, okay, we can start grabbing metrics and grab traces. And I'm expecting next year that'll be mature, although that's like a super conservative thing, but something more exciting for me to say, where we'll be in a year. I'd love to see some quantum stuff. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, Olivia, back to you.
Back to me. Thank you. Super hard question for me. I'm very in the box in my day-to-day. I spend my days talking to customers about what's going on right now and what can we do about it. but all of your answers were inspiring. I will tell you a shift I'm seeing now in conversations to where they were last year, and I think this is a trend I'm going to continue seeing in my specific role, is a shift in conversation from like, where is my data on cloud, on-prem, versus where does my workload run best? Like right now, a lot of conversations have been, that there's a lot of friction around data, moving it, duplicating it, managing it across environments, and, all of that slowing down adoption. And I think as time goes on, because of the investments that Google makes with partners, as far as partnering with them and spending time with them, I think it's going to become a lot more seamless. Choosing, where to put your workload based on performance or availability, or any of those, all of the above. So obviously with AI growing and the use of it, the demand of compute is only going up, so the flexibility is going to matter more, and Google Cloud is great at that because of their vast partner ecosystem.
Perfect. Okay.
And Megan, if I can, I just wanted to add something onto Olivia's comment, because it totally resonates with me, and things that we're seeing is, there's reasons for, how you pair data and compute that have to do with like efficiency and cost and performance. And then there's another thing I think is really going to take more center stage next year, and that is conditions of sovereignty, geopolitics, pressure on, architectures that might be, hybrid between on-prem or owned and cloud, kind of the sovereign AI, and kind of taking these concepts of federated AI, but adding some of these new pressures or forces, I think is going to take center stage too. So really resonated what you're saying, Olivia.
So let's do one last question for the group before we open it up to Q&A. So just one last reminder, if you have questions for our panelists here, please do put them in the Q&A function, and we'll get to those after this one. But maybe Stratos and Duane, I'll direct one last question at you, just from a customer perspective. Will and I both talked a little bit about all the announcements and things that were thrown at you in terms of updates and releases from last week. What is your strategy for filtering out the noise from the signal, and how do you decide what to ignore and what to prioritize when you're looking or attending these conferences?
I see, basically, I'm looking for alignment with our research priorities at NYU, with our institution. For example, AI, of course, is a big priority, and everything is related to AI. So it's a challenge to filter all of that. I guess our next steps is outreach and letting our community know about, even letting them know that all these sessions have been recorded and slides are available is a good step. And again, I'm looking for alignment between these developments and our research priorities at the institution.
Duane, any commentary on that one?
I mean, that's such a good question, but also I feel like that's where I spend so much of my time is evaluating technologies, and then sometimes I would, but that so that I can then say to my team, you don't have to waste your time on this. I spent last weekend, running through 3 different models, going through a couple different stacks. This is what I've learned. Yeah.
So maybe just personal preference.
Brute force, I guess, is my filter. I feel like that's such a terrible answer, but maybe some of it is just gut. But a lot of it is oh, this looks interesting, let me kick the tires and see, is this hype or is this real? But a lot more, I didn't feel like there was a lot of hype at this. There was a lot of hype, but it was founded. Sometimes you go to a conference and it's this is my first Google Next, so maybe I'm comparing this to other poor examples, but there was a lot of stuff that didn't feel like a smoke and mirrors show, but it was here's a talk, here's a lab, do this, kick the tires, so it was really great.
Yeah, well, as a Googler, we appreciate the feedback, and we I think have similar biases, but appreciate hearing it from others. Well, we have a few customer questions, so attendee questions here. So, let's start with the first one. So, regarding agentic and tried and trusted workflows, do these tend to map onto process flows that were previously tried in RPA or earlier in BPMN flows?
Well, I'm happy to jump in, and maybe also Duane and Stratos, sounds like you're implementing quite a bit in your respective orgs. I think one of the traps for agentic workflows is just taking exactly how you do things and just mapping them onto and trying to get agents to do exactly the way you're doing it today. So some of the greatest progress that we've seen both at Google as well as with our customers is letting the agents kind of solve problems, being more declarative about the problem you're trying to solve, and not worrying so much about, like, you have to have compliance guardrails, and like determinism in the way that you want to guide your agent. But we found it to be it's like the exact opposite of RPA, where you take all the steps and you get like the thing that presses the button and copies and scrapes and does this. It's exactly the opposite. It's like you give it an objective. You say, go solve the problem. Here are the parameters with which you can do it. And you actually learn a lot about your own implicit knowledge or tacit knowledge in an organization and implicit processes that weren't documented by actually having the agent execute and capturing that, the reasoning can be logs. The steps can be logs now. And so the last thing I'll say is you're actually building your enterprise knowledge base as you go, rather than trying to define it a priori and execute it, which is kind of a complete flip.
All right. Stratos, anything you want to comment?
No, I think I agree with Will. I mean, this is basically the approach we're also been taking to our institution. I mean, there are agents that, just automate actions based on emails, for example, right? Which is kind of the day-to-day work rather than research. I haven't seen much use of agents, or at least for now, intention to use them in our secure research environments for now. Maybe there is some hesitation there because of, the risk of, compliance, etc. But yeah, I think I agree with Will, his approach, and that's what we've been doing.
Thank you. And Will, there's one last question. I don't know the answer, I'll be honest. Will, you might, but if not, we'll take this as an action to go follow up. So in relation to Slurm, is there any news of a jumpstart or quick lab which will actually go beyond just initiating the deployment?
That's a good question. I don't have the answer off the top of my head, but we'll definitely get back to you in terms of, enabling your success with Slurm versus just like the cloud.google.com link you probably went to when I said it, and you probably found something that was like 50% of the way there. We'll do a little bit better for you.
Yeah. So we'll take that one as an action. We actually like leaving these things with action because it helps us get better at day-to-day things as well. So we appreciate it. Well, with that, I would like to give a huge thank you to the panelists. Last week was a whirlwind of announcements, news, meetings, everything. So thank you for taking the time to come recap this with us and just spend an hour with the community here. So much appreciated for all your insights and just kind of everything you've shared about last week.